Groovy Basics Part 3. This is Lecture 11 of Section 3. Let's begin. In this lecture, we will study about the constructors in Groovy, the this keyword in Groovy. Then we will study about the functions and how you pass the values in function. Then we will study about passing objects as a reference. And then we will study about the option parameters, followed by a quiz in the end. Constructors. In Groovy, if you don't declare any constructor in a class, you will get two constructors by default. Now let me explain it with a simple example. In this Groovy class, as we haven't specified any constructor, Groovy will provide two constructors as follows. The first will be a default constructor, and the second default constructor will take a map as a parameter. So there will be two constructors by default. Due to the mentioned two constructors, you can construct a dog object in these ways. You can write new dog, the default constructor, or you can write new dog named Tommy, or new dog named Tommy color black. You can add a map parameter in it. It's rare to create parameterized constructors in Groovy because the map constructor that's added to all the classes reduces the need for any real constructors. Now let's study this keyword. This keyword refers to the instance of the enclosing class where a closure or a method pointer is defined. This is to be used inside static methods. For example, print this.className prints the class name. Functions passing values. Function programming is a style of programming that emphasizes the application of functions to solve computing problems. Different programming languages pass parameters differently to these functions. So you can pass parameters by value and you can pass parameters by reference. Groovy is essentially a pass by value language. That is, if you pass a value to a method and the method modifies it, you don't see a change in the calling scope. In pass by value, the formal parameters of any function are treated as local variables. What this means is that the algorithm inside the function is allowed to modify the variable. It can do so very safely because the formal parameter is a copy of the original value. The algorithm calling the function will never see the results of the modification. Changes made to the variable within the method had no effect on the variable that was passed. So, whatever it is that A contains as a value, we are sending to our function. That means we are sending 42 to the function. The function pops out 43 as a return value. Now B was a local variable, so when the function ends, its value resets and it is a null, and the original variable A remains unchanged. Only the output changes. So this is what pass by value means. On the other hand, when the object is passed with the function, the memory location of the actual argument is shared in pass by reference. So if you pass an object to a function, you pass the value of the reference to it. Pass by reference is a way of passing parameters in which a reference to the original variable is passed. Hence, the modification on the object made in the call function will be reflected in the calling function. So if you look at the image now, as we compare to the previous image, we now pass a reference to A to the function. For all the practical purposes, we are not sending 42. We are sending the variable A itself. So when you pass by reference, you're actually performing the operation on the referenced variable itself. Now let's talk about option parameters. Groovy supports option parameters or default arguments in constructors and methods. This reduces boilerplate code. Now, boilerplate code or boilerplate is a section of the code that have to be included in many places with little or no alteration. It is often used when referring to languages that are considered verbose or that the programmer has to write a lot of code to do minimal jobs. We can take as many parameters optional as we like, but they have to be trailing. We can use this in evolutionary designs to add new parameters to existing methods. In order to define an option parameter, simply give it a value in the parameter list. Here's an example of a log function with option base parameter. If we don't provide that argument, Groovy assumes a value of 10. Groovy fills the missing argument with the optional value, as we can see in the output. This is the end of the lecture. Now it's time for the quiz. Quiz question 1. What two constructors you get in Groovy by default? Question 2. The this keyword should be used inside which methods? A. Private, B. Public, C. Static, or D. Protected? And the answer to question 1 is the first default constructor is an empty constructor and the second default constructor has a map as a parameter. And the answer to question 2 is C. Static. Question number 3. What is meant by pass by value? And question number 4. What is meant by boilerplate code? The answer to question 3 is the initial value of the variable is a copy of the values that have been passed to the function in pass by value, and the call of the function will never be affected by any side effects caused by the function's implementation. And answer to question 4 is boilerplate code is a section of the code that has to be included in many places with little or no alteration. That is the end of the quiz. Also marks the end of the lecture 11. Thank you.